Sammy Hagar has had a career full of hit records, both solo and as a member of Van Halen, so many that he could play for a few hours and still not get all of them into one set list. Along the way, he's made a number of soundtrack appearances and one-off singles, including the underrated High Hopes from his 1994 Unboxed compilation, and Winner Takes It All from the 1987 Sylvester Stallone film about arm wrestling, Over the Top. But he's also recorded a number of rarities obscure enough that they might have flown under your radar. Here are some of our favorite rare Sammy Hagar tracks. 1982's Standing Hampton was an important milestone for Sammy Hagar on a number of levels. It was his first album for Geffen Records after years of being on Capitol, but it also found him working even more efficiently than he had on albums past, completing work on the record in less than 2 weeks. Still, as drummer David Lauser told us, Hagar wrote and demoed close to 30 songs with the band to arrive at the 10 that made it to the album. Most of those songs remain unreleased, and Hagar himself recently told us he'd love to hear the remaining songs, but he's scared to play the tapes because they're so old. There were a couple of songs from the sessions, Don't Get Hooked and Satisfied, that were released as B-sides. Both are classic Sammy Hagar rockers, and if we could make one change to the track listing of Standing Hampton, we'd put Satisfied on there in place of his cover of Piece of My Heart. 1982's Fast Times at Ridgemont High featured an all-star soundtrack overseen by music mogul Irving Azoff. It's no surprise that several members of the Eagles have solo cuts in the track listing, along with Jackson Browne, Billy Squier, Stevie Nicks, Jimmy Buffett, and others. But it was Sammy Hagar who snagged the honor of having the title song for the film, and appropriately, his song, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, provides the perfect, hazy musical soundtrack for anyone who might be cutting class and up to no good. Moving into 1984, Sammy Hagar was back with another soundtrack cut, following his appearances in the lineup for Heavy Metal and Fast Times at Ridgemont High. This time, it was Kevin Bacon's Footloose, the movie about the small town that tried to outlaw dancing and rock music. Sammy adds another strong rocker to his soundtrack resume with The Girl Gets Around, and he even played it live and eventually put it out on his live DVD, Living It Up in St. Louis in 2007. Sammy Hagar's 1987 self-titled solo album, also well known as I Never Said Goodbye after a fan won an MTV contest to choose a title for the album, features a powerhouse lineup including Eddie Van Halen, who played bass on the record. Leading off the second side of the album, Standing at the Same Old Crossroads originally clocked in at about 1 minute and 45 seconds and has a bluesy feel that's reminiscent of both the original Crossroads and Sammy's later work on Little White Lie from the Marching to Mars album. An extended version of Standing at the Same Old Crossroads adds another minute's worth of jamming, and you can find that on the 12-inch vinyl EP for Give to Live. The roots of Van Halen's crossing over extend back to before Sammy Hagar even joined the band. Eddie Van Halen demoed the song in 1983, titling it David's Tune in memory of a friend who had passed away. Hagar heard the song when he joined the band and was interested in recording it right then and there in 1985, but Eddie wasn't interested in pursuing the idea, so the song sat on the shelf for another decade. Finally emerging not long after Balance was released in 1995, it showed up initially as a Japanese bonus track for the record and was eventually also released as the B-side to Can't Stop Lovin' You, and holds the distinction of being the only previously unreleased song that the band ever released as a B-side, which is impressive when you consider that the group released 60 singles globally during their time together. In 1997, Sammy Hagar released his first solo album following his exit from Van Halen. The sessions were prolific, with guests like Mickey Hart of the Grateful Dead, Matt Sorum, Huey Lewis, and even Bootsy Collins stopping in to help Sammy record the songs for the Marching to Mars album. Hagar also reunited with his old Montrose bandmates to record a new song for the record and a fresh update on their classic rock candy. The Japanese version of the album adds 2 additional songs, including the slow-burning, swampy rocker, Wash Me Down Again, which stretches out for 6 minutes and features a killer guitar solo. It's a great tune that deserves a wider audience, so hopefully if Sammy ever releases a collection of rare and unreleased songs, this will be on there. In the early 2000s, Sammy Hagar reunited with his old HSAS bandmate Neil Schon, his longtime Van Halen bandmate Michael Anthony, and drummer Dean Castronovo to form a new supergroup called Planet Us. Slash was also asked to be part of the lineup and turned them down. Hagar described the band as being like early Led Zeppelin mixed with Cream and maybe Van Halen, but more modern, like Tool. The members of Planet Us recorded Vertigo with plans for it to be part of the Spider-Man soundtrack. Hagar himself says the song was rejected because it was too heavy, and he says that he agrees with that assessment. The song did eventually get released, however, as Psycho Vertigo, along with Peephole, another track from the Planet Us era, on Hagar's 2008 album Cosmic Universal Fashion. Both songs feature Sean and Castronovo jamming with Anthony and Hagar. A bonus mention: Heavy Metal is one of Sammy Hagar's best-known solo songs, and it's worth searching out the soundtrack version of the track, which features a completely different mix than the recording that appears on Standing Hampton. Find more stories about Sammy Hagar by clicking the link in this video's description, and make sure to subscribe to our UCR channel here on YouTube for all of the best news and history of classic rock and pop culture.